Only 15% battery. And 15% battery. Hi, little hole. Little tiny hole. I look at you and I see something that I want to avoid. You one-eyed beast. And yet through that little hole I may look into many pairs of eyes. I may speak to many pairs of ears, as though fixed upon you, as though I know what you look like, as though, like an anchorman on TV, I can just mesmerize you with my constant, blinkless stare. News at 11. Someone is trying to hurt us all, and their name is not the government. It's some local immigrants who are taking your credit cards and using them to start porn websites. News after this break from Pedophiles Are Us. I think my dad always thought I was stronger than I was. People think I'm stronger than I am. People secretly want to know people like me, and yet they're afraid. Because I'm a perfectly boring human being. As simple as my life is. Nonetheless, as a poor, loveless virgin, can squeeze the essence of life out of my simple little life. And yet people with all their money and busyness need everything that they have and do to find more exciting things, to get their endorphins going, to make them feel alive. I have to just sit in the cold and drink some kombucha. I feel pretty fucking alive. I've got several tons of rock on top of me. Tens of thousands of gallons of water going by. Tens of thousands more floating in the air. And miles to get home on my own two fucking feet. I have no mode of communication except my mind, which I use to pretend that I can see women without their clothes on. Yep. Especially if they have firm titties. I like the little firm titties. Not the kiddies' titties, just the big girls' little titties. Actually, I don't really like little titty women. I like them in the middle, you know? Normal tits. Some women have really big asses and tiny tits. I never trust a small titted woman, but I never trust a big titted woman. I like medium titted women with proportional assholes. Not too big, not too small. Just right. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas where all the people find some joy and the snow that falls from heaven make you feel the earth will spring for thee again. Agon, right? Agony, again, agony. And yet gone is one of the most important sounds in English language. Gone. Gone with the wind. Gone, G-A-N, is better than God. It is the profound level of heavenly and terrestrial communication that our flesh and blood is most naturally fucking acquainted with. Gone is the animal of our mind. Agony indeed. Pay gone? You gotta pay with your gone? Because your paw is gone? You gotta pay a gone? I've gotta make sense to you, and my flesh and blood made all the sense it needed when I was in my mother's pussy. And yet I've gotta make sense to you? Don't you fucking know who I am? You're so fucking knowledgeable? How could you study how many millions of fucking children and you don't know who the fuck I am? I'm gone with the wind, motherfucker. Because true communication is with the wind, and the wind is with my true communication. I pass wind between my lips, and it smells fine. Okay. Is it there are people that are Let's go. I don't need to stay here. I'm not smoking too much. That's good. I can feel an area of aggravation. It's to do with that BC Transit. They're very aggravated with me. And they haven't finished teaching me yet. I think there's a lesson to be learned. I consider you wise into beings. I'm trying to think about the incredibly mysterious enigmatic reason I was denied services twice while standing in open with no one else around for 15, 10 to 26 nights in the cold and broad daylight. I know it must be something about me, the way I smell. I'm trying to smell sweeter these days. Unprovoked aggression from someone working in a public sector is absolutely contemptible. And it's eminently contemptible. You should be angry about it. Is what I tell myself. You should be incensed every fucking day. Good for you. Tell them you're incensed. Good for you. It should never fucking happen. It's a disease, right? It's a disease. It's a disease. And certainly, once I offended the Church of the Eastern Star, purposely, you know, it's one thing to not believe in someone's God, persuasive as it may be, like the Masons. And their God, you might wonder, what is their God? Well, their God is the industrial system. They know there's two genders, and they know that that's how the world is controlled. And peculiar manipulations of gender is how everyone understands their place in the world. Gender is basically how you fit into the fundamental matrices of a financial society, is through your gender. That's why psychiatrists will tell you to fucking get a job. Your sex energy and your work energy and your sentience are comprehended as the same vital essence. If you're going to lower your inhibitions to use it in one way, you're going to have to lower your inhibitions to use it another way. And both have to be equally destructive. So your job and your bedroom become places where you annihilate yourself with your libidinous activities. And so the most important thing they do to children is to deny them an adequate amount of time, comfort, and home and safety to decide where they want to direct their sentient life force. It is rather directed for them, constantly. And not because of some natural, wonderful symbiosis with the animal kingdoms around them, no. Because many more wonderful and technological opportunities await them after 13 to 15 to 25 to 50 years of torture through various institutional systems of hazing the human mind and confusing its sex and bending it and marshaling it for its own survival to start molding itself to an increasingly peculiar environment filled with other people and other chemicals produced, an environment meant to make you feel trapped. And so you never learn healthy sex going to public school. In fact, there is no such thing in the white world as healthy sex, except maybe masturbation. Right? White people don't have sex, right? They just use each other as objects, and at best, a mutually satisfying financial arrangement. It's disgusting. It's all prostitution, right? It's not just the oldest profession, it's the only one, right? And that's why there's so much rape, and that's why there's so many unholy alliances. That's why matrimony comes into it, figures quite prominently. And I'll go back to this show I was watching, and this young girl initiates sexual contact with a young man, and then asks the young man if he was sincere in his attentions, even though she initiated and never declares her sincerity, but with an interrogation as to his sincerity. Do you see the problem with that? That's narcissistic. She takes what she wants, and as evidence of which, she wants him to confess to the sincerity of his own response when it has been provoked at her behest. It is rather her sincerity that should be marked and confessed most clearly, since she's initiated it. If she's not sure, then why is she initiating it at all? Why isn't it mutual? You see? It's fascinating witchcraft, right? And you'll notice that the male character in this show eventually dies. And the closer he gets to her, the more dead he looks throughout the entire show. I point this, we watch 13 seasons of it, I point this out to my mom all the time. Did you know he looks more rigor, he looks more dead with every season that goes by, the closer he gets to Amy. And she starts looking dead too. They both start dying as they enter into matrimony and work. They share work, they share a bed, They share a child, they adopt another child. What's wrong? Even though he dies of seemingly, certain circumstances that you wouldn't think are domestic related, the whole show is really, because society's like this, measures of how he dies. Everything about his life prepares him for death. Even his work, even his sex and love life. It's all about him dying, the entire show. He's the scapegoat of the show. He's the bull. He's the hero. He's the protagonist. You see? You can learn a lot from the genetic profile of these shows and their interesting gender.